So I look forward to getting started today. Let's dig in how biotech firms can overcome complex sales and onboarding. I'll be transparent. We use the word biotech here. We have a lot of biotech or health tech or tech of tech. But ultimately, a lot of the principles I'm going to share here, if you're like, OMG, I'm not a biotech group, don't fret. A lot of this is the same. It just typically the major differences between complex and this is we also do a lot of more security in biotech, FDA compliance, and other things of that nature, which of course might not apply to your organization. But again, the rest, I'd say a good cup of 80% you can take it to the bank for real. So let's get into it. As many of you know, I like to just kind of set the stage. Um, so 68% of clients cite onboarding. Onboarding now is so important. Depending in the vertical, 10, 20, 30% of your churn could be living. Churn, if you're not familiar, is losing a client, and it might not be as transparent as them like quitting that day, but they won't renew and they'll cite that it was the onboarding was atrocious or the sales process did not align, the handoff was camp brought amok, right? Whatever it might be, right? So there's multiple underlying layers here. And so when I look at sales, especially in this vertical for like a lot of complexity, is this one typically a super long, I'm giving like an abstract here, typically a super long sales process, right? A lot of relationship, historically wonky handoff mean from sales to onboarding, and then onboarding sometimes wonky and not real clear because it's very complicated, a lot of players involved, right? I'm going to unpack all this, but just kind of a sneak peek. I'm going to cover a couple of challenges first, and then after I cover those challenges, I'm going to give you some ideas for solutions. And again, always my hope is that you can pocket some of these and literally try them later on today in a team meeting, or at least discuss them. That's how actionable they are. You can then get better over time and do more, but I always like to kind of do that from that perspective. Does that make sense, everybody? So great. So let's get into it. So one of the bigger challenges is, of course, just the environment itself, right? So as I've talked with many of you, or obviously you guys have been involved in deals, what is the driving force around a lot of the complexity here? Is 100% the environment, right? I kind of said it and then got it to slide, but you guys know what I mean. Busy week for me. Hopefully it is for you guys also. But ultimately, this is kind of the underlying. So when we look at complex sales, and then we look into the handoff and the onboarding, what has happened over the last, call it, I'm 48, so just near 50, been kind of in this environment for almost that entire time, definitely SaaS software, enterprise, medium-sized sales, obviously biotech, they're all going to be larger groups. And so that kind of ecosystem. So ultimately it's the environment, right? So a lot of people, many on many, right? And it's just camp run amok. Everybody kind of knows. It's just the simple question you ask yourself: do you have to deal with? I'm saying that not nicely. Do you have to deal with? Are there more people involved in both of these use cases than ever before for you? Your answer is yes. I can answer it. So let's get. Not that I should be answering for your org, but I think you know what I'm getting at, right? Like nothing in B2B complex sales or onboarding has gotten better, right? Now, obviously with our services, it gets better, but you know what I'm getting at, wink, wink. It's getting more and more complex, more and more stakeholders, more and more silos, etc. So challenge one, we kind of alluded to it. And I get it. Anytime this is like on the internet, anytime you kind of state some numbers, always like, well, it doesn't take us 120 days to sell. Ours is 6 months, 2 years, 78 days, a fortnight. Like there's a lot of different options out there. I get it. It's just getting longer. Can we agree? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, team. So 60% of the deals for sure in biotech and many of our other more complicated science or healthcare or really pharma, any of that ecosystem, it's usually more like 10 to 12. In some healthcare deals, we've had north of 25 for our clients, especially if it's like a system-wide deal. a very super complex or larger, it's going to get complicated. But the point of these, because there is no true air quote average, because everybody's a little bit different, every organization. But basically, it's a lot of due diligence, a lot of SMEs, a lot of lawyers, a lot of technical people, a lot of account people, senior leadership who are cutting the checks, risk managers everywhere, right? So everybody kind of knows, and I'm hopefully making you chuckle. What is a fortnight, though? Quick, without Googling, anybody know Fortnite? I don't have it. I don't have it. I'll put it in my follow-up. I'll put it on my, that's the Easter egg for this presentation of Fortnite. All right, continuing. Challenge 1, lengthy sales. I think you guys can all agree you're here, right? So obviously extremely complicated. Lots of challenges there. 2, misaligned expectations. Say what? How does that happen, Joe? How do expectations not be met? Well, oh, there's a spectrum here, right? So bear with me, especially if you're part of sales leadership here. But some I've heard on the interweb that sometimes salespeople don't qualify the customers as well as they should, don't get enough information about them, or maybe the expectations of what the product, service, obviously technology or whatever that you're promoting maybe wasn't exactly what it was. So there's mixed expectations there, right? Then that carries on into onboarding, right? So it was funny. I was talking with not a client of ours, honestly. It was somebody just on a webinar. They followed up with a couple of questions, and him and I were just shooting back and forth. Really nice guy, won't state it, but they were in complex. And I said, "What does your kickoff meeting look like here?" And he said, honestly, kickoff in our onboarding meeting is more a sales meeting for all the questions they didn't ask during sales. They're now bringing to the table because they've signed the line that is dotted. And now they're asking a ton of things. And he said, it's very, very dangerous for us. The first meeting of onboarding, I'll say it again, the first meeting of onboarding is basically another laundry list of questions, and whether or not your onboarding team is equipped for that, that's a big kind of very interesting red flag that we hope to be able to help him out here soon on that. But it's interesting, right? Like this is all the things that kind of come about when it's a lot of people, miscommunication, and areas of opportunity around that. But I will say missed expectations, the best way to do it, not best way to do it, not to set mixed expectations, but is reframing basically everything again as you're getting started. I've talked a trillion times about pre-mortems for onboarding, which is not post-mortem, pre-mortem, like trying to find the failure points with the client mutually. Obviously, mutual plans. I'll get into more things here. I don't want to spill the beans, but ultimately, first one, long sales, misalignment. This is double whammy misalignment sales, misalignment during the handoff, misalignment for onboarding. That would actually be 3. I typically call handoff as part of onboarding. So we do. Yep. So this is some things to start to think about, right? So I always kind of try to frame things sometimes that whole Johari window, like sometimes look in places that not the straight path where you're like, of course, it's like you got to kind of find these, the devil's in the details, or trying to help you unlock new things to talk about with your team, because sometimes these things can help. Maybe the problem, work with me, frankly, maybe some of it is just how the team is operating. They're setting mixed expectations because they're doing some things that they thought was right and sometimes isn't, right? And I'm going to get into the next one here, which is the flip side of the coin. And this is where the misalignment kind of runs wild, guys. So the misalignment isn't just, as I was jokingly saying earlier, that the sales rep said something, yeah, sure, I'm not going to, but the other side of it is this is truly how your prospect slash new client, right, is actually how they're entering into the game, right? They're scared as crap. And a lot of times they don't know what they don't know. So like that gentleman I was mentioning earlier, where the first kickoff call for onboarding was actually a sales meeting, basically of 100 more questions, exaggerating, not 100, but a lot of questions there, right? Why were they asking so many questions? Because the rubber started to hit the road and the fear factor started to bubble up. People were getting tense. Oh, OMG, will it do this? Will it do this? What about this? What about this integration? Did anybody tell them that we work with Kabuki Plus API? Nope, nobody did. Do they work with Kabuki Plus API? Nobody knows, right? And so there's a lot of fears that start bubbling up. And so I always like to say, to mitigate those fears, there's lots of techniques. We talked pre-mortem. We talked about bringing the sales rep still into that first meeting, because that and proactively asking those questions. So yeah, there's a lot of reselling. Basically, we like to say is the why, especially if this was an executive sale and now you're being handed off to another team to actually deploy. That can get real risky for you. Again, we'll cover more of these. This is just kind of the Eastern Western medicine kind of play, right? Like that's what I always say. In America, we just cover it up with pain pills instead of really solving the problem, right? So same thing here. Like, so the point of all of this is to obviously try to find the real problem area and solving that, and at least providing a path. Sometimes you can't solve it. You just got to facilitate a way. I always like to say, help the client with a lot of on ramps and exit ramps. On ramp and exit, not like exit like bye bye, you're gone, lose money. No, it's more just letting them in and out of conversations and facilitating, success. So, okay, challenge number 3, trace. Obviously, we're a big data collection company. Obviously, during our onboarding, most of our clients are our biotech client, everybody, a lot of data. These numbers are shooting short, definitely on the last one. But Gigo, if you want to steal this for your team, that's garbage in, garbage out. Everybody knows what I mean by that. It is the proverbial when you're asking clients for data and information, and this could even be during the sales process as you're qualifying, because a lot of times more complex biotech deals, and tech deals and other deals, anything with tech typically, there's a lot of qualification processes, data collection in order to figure out what SMEs the proposal, and sometimes that's more done on the front side of the equation. But my point here is is the latency between things getting done, the latency, you can really improve your speed. And if we're talking sales cycle or TTV, time to value, you can dramatically improve it with just going after Gigo. And what I would say here, and I'm going to say it again later, is to just obviously trust but verify. And I'll explain more on that in a minute. But the Gigo strategy, areas that you can just self look at your own process, whether it's on the sales or the onboarding side, and identify them and just work through those. But yeah, the second one, I'm sure 50 of you right now are just shaking your heads like, oh yeah, remember this one? Oh yeah. And as you're sitting down at the pub having a beer with the team later on, someone's going to say, how did we get delayed 3 weeks? Well, it's going to be somebody uploaded data, we didn't look at it, and it was the wrong data, and now we got to go back to the client, and the client people aren't available this week or next week, or they're on vacation, and ta-da, a lot of problems, right? So yep. So a lot of challenges to data collection and integrations and all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, you guys know. Whoop, whoop. So with that, that's the domino effect. And again, I've said this. We use this slide that frustrated customers is like Chef Boyardee. Every time I look at it, the one on the right, I don't know, he's on fire. But it could be a punk rock band, but he's wearing a suit. So it would have to be like a contemporary punk rock band, or yeah. But you get. I digress. It's awesome. Yes, I agree. Yes. Sorry, somebody just commented. Yeah, it definitely looks like a rocker. You're right. It's like a modern rocker there with Chef Boyardee. All right. And so, um, that's awesome. So obviously the domino effect of bad data, broken processes, frustrated customers, you guys can see it, you're living it, right? Your teams have lived it, and it's on both sides. I got to be candid. It's literally on both sides of the equation. And so it's your team getting frustrated, and of course, at the same exact time the clients are getting frustrated and your team is getting frustrated. So yeah, for for sure. All right, continuing on, you get kind of the effect there. So okay, challenge number 4, we're getting there. 3, 4, a lot of value already, but let's keep going. So I don't want to dip into the solution too much here, heavy, but a lot of the challenge for the customer is increasingly at the communication breakdowns. I think you guys have all lived this too. So some of these, it's not like, oh, Joe, that's amazing. No, what it is sometimes clients don't recognize how much of a problem it is because people are just not synced on what's going on, what step in the process they are, what else is needed, etc. Right. And so it's a big challenge. And obviously one of the areas is getting it all organized. So just say that centralized. Right. And so I will say this and I will repeat it, and it's been validated 100% of the time. Email is not a sales tool. Email is not an onboarding tool. I can take that to the bank, right? I know that 100%. But people are like, oh, I'm just going to send them an email. And no, 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 no. Going to Home Depot and buying a hammer doesn't make you a carpenter. And so email, just because it's able to get to the customer, is not a professional communication system for project, obviously closing, selling, and obviously onboarding with tasks and relationships and all sorts of things and a whole team involved. And just seeing 48 people is not going to get you there. I know everybody's laughing, but you guys know the point. So you have to create an environment for clear communication, collaboration, and organizing it. Definitely in the biotech and any of our health tech. We work a lot in healthcare also, just really every, yeah, all these complicated industries. It's a lot of money because you got a lot of players over a long period of time, and there's a lot of inefficiencies. What I mean by that, you're like, "How 10,000, Joe? That's a number." Yeah, it is. It's a big number, and it starts to multiply out more and more with how many people you have. But by simply using our mutual plan templates, our email templates, our proactive automations that are doing a lot of the stuff for you, these things dramatically reduce time on task. Obviously, they're consistent on brand. They're consistent, especially if you're bringing on new customers. I'm not going to get into selling. You can sign up for a demo, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's the little things that matter, and it's the devil in the details that really elevates the experience. And a lot of times, by having everything centralized, it's going to work a whole lot better for you. I just for sure. All right, challenge 5. Retention and risk the first 90 days. Okay, so this one is quite popular. Not that some of these other things aren't, but uh, one of the concepts, I always call it Tiger Team. Um, if you're not familiar with Tiger Team, it's the Apollo mission. Um, and a Tiger Team was having, people of different disciplines all together to make sure you're monitoring the client and making sure everything's going right. And so that it's, if you see a problem, if there's smoke, it's solved quickly, or at least talk, you know what I mean? Like it's quick. So for a lot of our clients, this is a very important piece. We help them establish kind of this Tiger Team concept, and or, you know, it ranges with clients, 30, 60, 90, 120. It waterfalls. I mean, there's a lot of, we're not to get into the devil in the details here, but it's typically, if things are going to go south, it's going to go south. Then obviously you're, excuse me, just getting live with them, and so it can create some barriers, but you can mitigate it quite effectively um, by pre thinking it. And this, we really work with me. It's onboarding. It's part of onboarding, but to us, it's a separate, just like handoff. There's handoff in onboarding, like config kind of, and then there's the, okay, we're soft launch, alpha launch, beta launch, whatever. That's when the rubber's really starting to hit the road, because you're trying to get to time to value, TTV, right? Everybody. And so you want to make sure that it's a pleasurable experience. Are there going to be problems? Yep. Yeah, there are. How you're judged though is how you respond, how fast you respond, and with the resolution strategy. So that's the key, right? That's the key. Um, so this is how we handle it. There's tons of stuff on our site around that. Actually, we're doing a webinar coming up real soon, just literally on what I'm going to show here in a little bit. So okay, so now that's enough complaining, right? Stop complaining, everybody. Um, give me a solution. Help me out. Okay. So strategy one, streamline sales with qualification frameworks. I don't have to read, you guys can do it. So we have a lot of concepts, not us, like personally us. We inbound a ton of concepts, meaning our clients come to us with multiple ways of doing sales. Clearly, we don't care what sales methodology you're using. We're sales methodology agnostic. What we are about is operationalizing it and utilizing our underlying mutual plan system, because we believe in mutual plans. Hence, sales is two different parties bringing them together and taking them through repeatable, scalable processes, right? So if your sales process, you're struggling, especially in a long sales cycle, that's the first place to start. One, laying out the optimal prospect journey, your interactions with them, what data needs to be collected, and then getting that into a tool set to help you with that pre-qualification processes. Typically, that involves collecting data, I would hope, to qualify them. Two, for quoting. If you're more complicated, like our biotech, you're going to have obviously different subject matter experts getting involved, building trust with the organization. So there's a whole lot of things to consider, but you kind of have to map that out, right, into a prospect journey. And then obviously build in system around that to utilizing templates, and obviously all that carries through in our methodology into the onboarding process, the pre-sales, the post-sales, the handoff. Like, this is what we're talking about here, right? We know we can help a lot of people, and we do help a lot of people, obviously, shorten their sales cycle. But what's most important for us is helping them win. A lot of the times, to be frank, um, the way some corporate rules are and elements of that, I'm definitely in biotech and some of our other clientele. You really can't sell faster, and I don't mean that like what, like it the client, your prospect themselves frequently have corporate policies and procedures and elements in place that you're not going to sell them necessarily calendar wise faster. You may not, but that's not really what you're worried about. You want to just win them. Winning them and taking an extra month is better than not getting them at all. Does that make sense, everybody? Like, it's the aha moment there. Like, yes, we want to win. Clearly, that's the number one primary goal we want to achieve. But sometimes you can't guarantee faster sales cycles. Like, some folks are like, well, we got to have a faster sales cycle. I'm like, well, it's not your sales cycle, it's the client's purchasing cycle. Reframe it, right? And so I think you guys know, you're all smart who signed up, I'm sure. So, just, you guys know. Okay, align sales and service handoff. So this is we've kind of alluded to this a couple of times, but micro into that. Just dive into that in your organization. So single client briefs, recordings of all your videos, all your meetings and everything. Obviously, biotech, for auditing purposes, we got all this kind of stored, centralized communication, everything, because for a lot of our clients, we do the FDA audit stuff. Like, if you're in this space today and you're on, you know. So yeah, all of that stuff has to be considered. And kind of we'll call it a pro tip, um, is introducing the onboarding staff before the contract is closed. We have seen this really help in building that trust, that handoff, relationships. Like, it's just, if you can. I know not every company can do that. Apologize, something in my throat. Not every client can do that, but it is nice if you're able to inject them earlier, because it really helps with customer satisfaction. There's no drop off. Yeah, it just really helps. So if you can work it in, and again, you know, working in where appropriate. I mean, you don't want them coming in early in the sales process. I mean, I'm talking about bringing them in. Either the contract is being redlined, or some other formal process that you're like, okay, because you don't want to waste money, obviously. But it's really nice to help with that process there. It also helps with the challenge that we were talking about earlier, where the first question in the onboarding meeting were all sales questions. See that? So by bringing that person forward, that might help introduce some of those topics when sales is still involved. Officially CYA you guys, or you, not you guys, just you and your org. All right. Okay. Sales and service handoff, homework assignment for you. Digitize data collection. This is Gigo. So if you're not, again, of course, I'm going to say we're great. We got a great product. Clearly, very well known, great solution, super successful clients. That's obvious. But some of you, maybe the timing isn't right, or certain things, but with security at a primo, you're working with clients' data, you're doing all sorts of things. You got to be using a secure portal to move documents, data collection, all this stuff. And then the trust but verify processes have to be there. So like in our system, clients utilize our tool to obviously collect files, collect fields, anything, all sorts of different data collection types, survey kind of types, etc. But ultimately, it's reminding the customer to keep that on schedule. Again, that latency, moving things forward, escalation when needed, before it's overdue. Overdue is too late. I always joke, like, overdue, you can't start doing stuff at overdue. No, you got to be working on it earlier, alerting earlier, dropping a DM earlier, and dropping an email. Like the whole process has to be forward thinking, not laggard. So I digress. But ultimately, in order to do all this, you got to have your data centralized, and it better be in a secure environment. My biotech peers here, obviously, you know where we're going with all of this. Clearly, like, actually, it used to be funny. Like biotech was like at the pinnacle, kind of stuff like that. But ironically, like it's really the same requirements are almost in all industries now. Our fintech clients, SaaS clients, you know what I mean, healthcare clients. I mean, we're HIPAA compliance. I mean, like we got it. Yeah, it's very important. So again, if you're not, again, email is not the place to be putting files. First of all, it's going to be the wrong file in a day or two because they send another one. It's going to cause all sorts of issues for you. And then you need to have the formal processes. Again, that's just do this. Like I just your team will. Yeah, thank you. All right, strategy 4, improve communication. We kind of talked about this earlier, and transparency. I got to be frank here. This is so part of it is obvious, right? Like, oh yeah, improve communication. This is clearly with like templates, right? All this stuff, creating visibility to that. And I got to be very, very transparent. People are competitive a lot of the time. And 2, there's the FOMO, fear of missing out, and also peer pressure. So pick your one that you want out of that. But by having everything centralized and visible to everybody, when people see Tiffany is getting all her crap done and Jimmy isn't, right? Whether that's on your side or the client side, there's a lot of value to that. There's a lot of value of expectations. There's a lot of value of clearly like what we would call verbal contracts, right? So when you're in the meeting with your client, you're like, all right, Tom, I have you getting us these 2 things by November 8th, these 2 things by the 12th. Are these on track? You feel good? We're going to get yes, I do feel good. Awesome. Thank you. Right. So little verbal contracts like that, the visibility of it, them knowing you're monitoring it. These are all little things that actually really add up, especially in a complex environment where there's a lot of these things going on. But 2, these people have other initiatives they're working on also, right? And that's another kind of important point of the centralization and why the communication has to be centralized is when you're onboarding, there's your side of the equation, which is you and your team, which clearly you have visibility of, hopefully with the tool, right? But you're able to manage your people. But on the other side, there's an equivalent of you over there. And this is really in sales and also in onboarding. There's a champion on the other side always. And so how do you empower those champions on the other side to be successful? Centralized communication, data collection, right? You see how these pieces all intricately work together, not only for operational efficiency on your side of the equation, it's also teeing your customer up for success, whether that's the sales process and or obviously the onboarding process, because it's hard for them too, right? That's why it's mutual. And so that's why we really stress about these things, because these are the building blocks. You never, you know, if you want a basement, when you pour the foundation, you just don't, you pour the basement, you don't wait. You pour it now and then you'll finish it later. Same thing here. The idea is make sure the foundational elements are in place, because from there you get all the abilities, as I like to say: visibility, accountability, you know what I mean? Reportability, ability in general. I don't know what that means, but you guys know what I mean. I call it all the abilities. And so that's really the key. And so don't dismiss it. And transparency sometimes has what I would call a negative connotation to it, um, but it shouldn't in your organization. And if it does, then there's some other issues you might want to work on. But between you and the customer, you're hoping for a very transparent relationship, because if there are things that aren't right, they need to, you know, obviously watch out, right? I mean, like, that's ultimately, if you're fearful of that, then maybe there's something else going on. I'm gonna, yeah, jump to, okay. This one I probably should have framed it just a little bit different, because it's actually two things. So obviously, well, really, it's like three things now, four things now. I don't know how many times I've been meeting with a CRO or head of sales, head of CS, whatever, a leader like you guys on the call today, really from any division, meaning overarching business unit. And they're like, we're in a competitive space. We got a lot of stuff that we need to make our onboarding a differentiator for our firm. We need to be better at onboarding than anybody else. And that's one, to drive retention, because they want the clients happy. They're also stating it to drive, obviously, a business differentiator, right? Like, they're just better, they're more polished, they're more. It's interesting how there's a whole competitive landscape around this, and maybe that's been brought up or been brought about because of, in B2C, it's already like that, right? B2C, like, you can order a pie right now for $10 at Domino's, and you're going to watch it be made. You're going to watch it go in the oven. You're going to see it get into a little robot, and that's going to show up at your front door, and you're going to know it's there, right? Like, for $10. And we're talking about B2B, 100,000, $2 million, $50 million contract, right? Like, wow, the experience kind of sucks, right? And so it's interesting, right? So we're seeing a lot of that there are expectations for quick wins too. The client wants to feel like they made the right decision. Like, there's just a lot of pressure on your organization right now. If you don't know this, that's why I'm sharing it with you. It's very, very real. So it's the retention, differentiation, call it differentiation retention. And then what we've seen in an increasing amount, a very increasing amount, because there's a tendency for clients to want to kick the tires first, right? And do a certain level of project or transaction with you. In biotech, whatever, they want to do one certification with you, one product, one whatever, one trial, right? Like, all of these things. It's one of something. But what they're using, and we're helping a lot with it, and it's been a fun kind of journey, is during the onboarding, we're so more so okay, let me back out here and say this more eloquently. So in sales, typically the sales team is, they're trying to find a problem or an area of opportunity, and then once they find it, they focus on it, right? Like, okay, they want help with this, so that's what they start selling them. But when the client is being onboarded, when we're onboarding them, not just us, we help our clients, is to gather a whole lot of information about the organization to really start to tee up the cross sell opportunity. and I've been working with many CROs in any industry, it doesn't matter, that the CRO is actually helping out in the onboarding process because they're providing an environment for capturing data on the client. So it's not only getting them a quick win now and a successful onboarding, it's unlocking growth opportunities within 30 to 90 days of basically the initial launch. There's already enough information to start to work on the cross sell and increasing the lifetime value of the customer, which what is very exciting about this is it puts onboarding again another direct line of revenue right to the onboarding experience, which is, if you're an onboarding leader, which is what you want to have very straight lines to revenue, not dotted, not circle, just straight up how important onboarding is to the org. Like I said, retention, reducing churn, and now the process can also identify additional opportunities, within it. Do me a favor, in the comments, put what you're doing related to that during the onboarding process. Very interested in it. We've been helping a lot of our clients do it. It's working very well for them, but you have to, it's the whole life cycle that we're helping bring to life there. So yeah, throw some comments in there. Love to get in your industry. Obviously, anybody biotech on here, talk to me. Have you seen that? What you're seeing around that. But yeah, it's really interesting, which again is just strengthening the case for superior onboarding and your team and everything else like that. Is it, again, if you've been in our webinars before, I one of the things I really work on, especially, is making sure that onboarding is considered a legit unit and legit. Work with me on the word. I just stake your claim like we're very, 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 very important to the enterprise. Very important. Sales can get it, but onboarding keeps it, and does it again and again, because more than likely, if you're really making money, you're going to onboard the same client 7 times with new services, features, etc. Okay. Yep. Throw comments down there. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yep. That was a good comment. Okay. Last but not least, the framework. Obviously, nothing. This is like yeah, like that was a joke. I'll let it go. But obviously, there's the people, there's the process, and the platform you need to think about. So I've been sharing with you a little bit of all that, right? So talking about the people, the process, the standardized handoffs, basically, and then obviously we have a world-class tool for doing that and obviously driving that forward. Love to, with anybody, obviously give questions below. Obviously, your people and your processes. Clearly, we know our platform. We do actually help a lot of our clients with, yeah, some of the process stuff too. But ultimately, you kind of went through everything there. Let me kind of, yeah, this is all just normal benefit stuff, but um, I mentioned it. We see a lot of efficiency that comes through, but I want to highlight, especially because sometimes clients are like, we're not really looking right now, but I really would like to just, we're different maybe, and all that stuff. So I do always provide basically a free consultation. Um, because our product is sold either, licenses of our product, but we also do like an onboarding ops kind of scenario where we really help roll out onboarding and improve onboarding and scale out all these different things to really optimize it. But I'll be sending out basically my recap of this, the video, obviously everything I have here, but there'll be a calendar link in there, which is straight up literally my personal calendar. And yeah, I have literally 5 to 10 conversations a week with webinar people that are just like, all right, Joe, let me break it down for you. Here's what we're doing. Any ideas? So I open that up to everybody. I encourage you to take advantage of that. It's exactly like kind of this webinar, very casual. We're just brainstorming, trying to find problems and tips and tricks that I can share out for winning. So again, I appreciate everybody's time and energy. If you can comment below with any questions now, I'll try to follow up with you. And yeah, again, keep looking at our schedule. New stuff coming out literally every week from our research and teams and many of the other concepts. So again, appreciate the time as usual. Thanks for it. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.